7:37 here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM in the AM. Peter Czymbor and Mike Paiva here with you on this Friday morning. And joining us in studio is the mayor of Brockton, Bill Carpenter. Bill, good morning. What's happened since we last spoke to you?
Peter, Mike, good morning. Great to be back here on PM in the AM. This is getting to be a regular gig now.
You know, it's interesting because...
I'm getting almost as much airtime as DiNapoli used to get. Yeah.
You'll be playing Help Me Rhonda soon on Sunday afternoons. You know, it's interesting. We talk to you every 2 weeks or so. Sometimes, you know, we talk to you every 7 days or so. And in the interim, so much happens.
Yeah.
There's never a shortage of anything happening in city government.
It's busy, and you're right. And it's nonstop, morning, noon, and night. But... you know, we're trying to proactively make positive changes in the city and, you know, deal with the day-to-day business of the city all at the same time. And, you know, I think it's one of the things after 6 weeks or so that is really unique about this job is, you know, we keep a very detailed calendar for me. We absolutely have a very specific game plan coming into each day, and it never comes out that way because stuff always comes up during the course of a day that you would not have anticipated. So I guess it's part of what makes the job exciting.
Let's talk about what has happened since we last spoke to you. What are the pressing issues that have come up during city council meetings and FinCom meetings, which are at the top of your agenda?
Well, I'd wish one would end before 10:30, those FinCom meetings. I think we're setting records for late-night FinCom meetings, but I guess the medical marijuana thing has certainly been a lot of discussion the last couple of days with the front page article in the Globe yesterday, and I know that Mike's running a story this morning. So, you know, I think my position on that one has been kicked around a little bit, so I'll clarify it. I did not vote for the referendum question. I voted against it. I didn't think it was a good idea. Didn't think it was a very well-written referendum question. One of my big concerns was it was very vague. It left a lot open to how it would be interpreted later. And I know that, you know, a lot of people use recreational marijuana and lead very normal, productive lives. But, you know, from some of my experience, I also have a concern that for some people, that marijuana can be a gateway drug, that it can lead to chasing the next better high. And so for my own personal philosophical reasons, I voted against the question. Now, I did endorse one of the proposals that one of the medical marijuana centers proposed for Brockton, the Greenway proposal that Mike referenced in his news story this morning. My position and why I think I've been completely consistent is I've told everyone I didn't vote for the question, but the reality is, you know, this is how our form of democracy works. A majority of the people voted in favor of it. It became law. The state DPH has promulgated regulations now as to how they're going to award it. So, you know, regardless of what my personal feelings may have been when I cast my ballot, the reality is that a medical marijuana center is going to come to the city of Brockton. So once we accept that reality, then I think my role as the mayor is to try to get the best possible ownership, the most responsible ownership, people that appear to know what they're doing and are well-funded and are willing to be good corporate citizens and give back to the community. And so I did spend some time with the principals of Greenway, John and Mike Green, who I knew them back when they were teenagers. They were friends with one of my sons growing up in Plymouth, and I knew them when they were kids. And I hadn't spoken to them in about 15 years when they came calling on me, but I remember them as teenagers, and I've known them since then. I thought they were good kids then. I thought they're good guys now. And I was extremely impressed with their proposal. They seemed to know the business. They seem personally very committed to the benefits of medical marijuana. And I believe in a role for medical marijuana. Don't get me wrong. My problem was with the question was my concerns about how it's distributed. I think if someone's undergoing chemotherapy, they absolutely should have access to medical marijuana. I think glaucoma patients, other people that have illnesses that may have trouble with their appetite, that they're not eating enough and they're losing weight, and it's a proven tool to help people increase their appetite. I do believe there are very legitimate medical uses for marijuana. But I looked at the Greenway group, I looked at their knowledge, I looked at their commitment. I was convinced that they were well financed. I was convinced that they were very committed to being a big part of the community, giving back to the community. They had a very holistic approach. The way that they were going to have their facility was going to have yoga and wellness and nutrition. There was going to be a lot of, very other holistic things to the operation in addition to the medical marijuana. So I did endorse that proposal, and I don't think I was unique. I think, according to yesterday's Globe, 9 city councilors also gave them letters. A couple of councilor-elects, folks that are on the council now, also gave them letters. So, this group had almost, with the exception of the former mayor, this group had universal support among elected officials here in the city. So, I think if nothing else, I was just consistent. My evaluation of their proposal was consistent with the way all the other elected officials and incoming elected officials looked at their proposal. So I really have some questions. I'm just shocked that they did not get it. There's certainly some questions being raised about the operation who did get it now. I will meet with the people who won the award in the very near future, because I think it would be irresponsible of me not to meet with them. But I have also asked the city legal department to see if there are any opportunities for the city to question this decision by the DPH, which I know a lot of the councilors are questioning, and I question also.
Has there been a location set for a dispensary yet here in Brockton?
The location I believe that they have is up near the corner of West Chestnut and Pearl Street, near where there used to be a redemption center there, like right next to there. And, I think there could be a better one. West Chestnut Street in general, up that end, is, somewhat commercial in nature. I would have preferred something set back from the road a little bit, not quite so highly visible. Where Greenway was proposing to go, I believe, was in the former FedEx building, which is not far from there, but is more of an industrial and set back from the street a little bit. And I always thought all along that, Oak Hill Way down in the industrial park would be a perfect spot. There are a couple of large facilities down there that are vacant right now, and that's, purely industrial down there. So, again, it's not something I lobbied for when the referendum question was being proposed, but once the question passed and the state DPH started promulgating the regulations, then I think my job as mayor is to act in the best interest of the people who live here and see who the potential candidates are coming in and try to select and support the one that I think would be best for the city of Brockton. And I'm shocked that the Greenway people didn't get it, but I think that both the councilors and I are exploring the possibilities as to whether this decision by DPH is in fact final, or there may be some chance to have DPH reconsider. And I really only came to that conclusion yesterday when I heard some of the governor's comments that I felt the governor's comments yesterday opened the door for further examination of this.
Now, you mentioned you feel that marijuana can be a gateway drug to more hard drugs. One thing that you've been very outspoken about, predating your days as mayor of Brockton, is the severe impact that heroin addiction and OC addiction has had on many families in this area. Recently, you enacted something that allowed firefighters in the city of Brockton to carry an antidote to some degree to heroin overdoses. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Narcan is a drug that's used by emergency rooms and first responders as an antidote to a heroin overdose. It saves lives. It acts within minutes, and it can be the difference between life and death. We right now, and this is not just a Brockton problem, and I repeat this over and over, this is a regional problem, this is a national problem. But right now, over the past 60 days or so, southeastern Massachusetts is going through a heroin overdose epidemic. People are dropping all around us, dropping dead. We're responding to dozens of overdose calls, and I can tell you just here in the city of Brockton in the past 6 days, we've had 3 deaths in 6 days that are being attributed to overdoses. So, I mean, it is a crisis right now. I think that the Brockton firefighters, when they're fully equipped with the Narcan, which I hope will be sometime within the next week, they're being trained. Matter of fact, today, training is going on today for Brockton firefighters. I actually requested this back 2 or 3 weeks ago, but there was a process where we had to go through DPH, Department of Public Health. We had to have someone trained as a trainer first, and now that trainer begins today training the firefighters in the proper use and administration of Narcan. But it's really, if you look at one of these things, it looks just like an inhaler that anyone with asthma would use. If someone was having an asthma attack and gave themselves an inhaler, looks like exactly the same thing. It's a shot of nasal spray up the nose that gets the drug into the system and saves lives. So shortly after, we don't want to send mixed messages, but in the very near future, I will be hosting an informational session on overdose prevention, because I think right now, with people dying at the rate they are, we can have all the philosophical arguments we want about drug addiction and whose fault it is and all that, but the fact of the matter is that I'm the mayor, and I think it's part of my responsibility to protect the people who live here, all of the people. And, coming up on Monday night, we're going to try to address the issue of gun violence, working with the legislature's Committee on Public Safety. And I think within a week or so after that, I hope for us to be sponsoring an informational forum on preventing and treating overdoses. I think these are both crises within our city.
Let's talk about what's going on Monday with the gun violence tour.
Yep. I coordinated this with State Rep Mike Brady, who has been, along with Claire Cronin, great working with us, and Senator Kennedy. But Mike sits as the vice chair of the Committee on Public Safety in the State House of Representatives. And so he connected us with the chair of that committee, Hank Naughton, who visits Brockton regularly, and I've already had a chance to meet with him. Great guy. And they've been traveling with that committee. They've traveled to several communities around the state. In the wake of last year, in the wake of Connecticut, the school shooting in Connecticut, literally, I think about 100 pieces of legislation were filed to address this issue of gun violence. And these pieces of legislation are all over the place. And I think what Representative Naughton and Representative Brady are trying to do is really identify 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of legislation that a majority of us could all agree upon that would be common sense approaches that can be effective on the state level in trying to reduce gun violence. And so this forum, which, let me mention, Monday night, 6 o'clock at the War Memorial Building on West Elm Street, right across the street from the old district courthouse. We have that beautiful War Memorial Building, and I hope that you'll see us using that regularly now as a public building and a public venue. But at the War Memorial Building on Monday night at 6, Representatives Naughton and Brady, along with myself, are co-sponsoring a public hearing on the issue of gun violence. And I expect that we'll hear from a wide range of folks. I expect we'll hear from a couple of the gun owners associations. They're going to want to state their case in protecting the rights of individuals to legally own guns, and I support that. I used to have a permit to carry. I know how to shoot a gun. I'm not opposed to law-abiding. I support law-abiding citizens owning guns. What I know, though, is that there are a lot of guns on the streets of our city that are illegal guns that are being used to commit crimes and to kill people, and gang members and drug dealers are using guns to settle differences and disputes every day. I had a report last night of up on the north side of the city. We had a house around 4 p.m. I should say last night, about 4 p.m. yesterday. We had the front of a house shot up, multiple gunshots fired into a house. Thank God no one was hit. But that's the type of violence that, even though it may be intended for one target, we've found out so many times, sometimes innocent victims are also wounded or killed. And I'm just not going to tolerate gunfire in the neighborhoods of the city, and I'm hoping people will come out to express their opinions and their suggestions, and if they want to do us particular pieces of legislation that could help to reduce gun violence and get illegal guns off the streets of our city.
That is a listening session and discussion of sorts this Monday night at the War Memorial Building.
Right, it's a chance for public comment, so there'll be an open mic, and members of the public will be able to speak directly to the chair and the vice chair of the Legislators Committee on Public Safety. And also that day, I'll be sharing with folks on Monday, I will also join an association called the Mayor's Alliance Against Illegal Guns. It was an organization started a couple of years ago by Mayor Menino in Boston and Mayor Bloomberg in New York City. Marty Walsh joined last week, and the only reason I held off was I thought it would be appropriate that I join on the day that we have a public hearing on gun violence here in the city.
One of the people who will be in attendance at this meeting Monday night at the War Memorial Building is Interim Police Chief Mr. Bob Hayden, a former guest on the show. Tell us about the latest in relation to Bob Hayden on the streets, literally on the streets, not behind a desk.
On the streets.
And also what's going on in relation to the former chief, Emmanuel Gomes, and his pay.
Yeah, two really completely separate topics.
Separate topics, but under the same umbrella almost.
Chief Hayden.
You tend to talk, Bill. I got to get him under one question.
The only mistake I may have made with Chief Hayden, I think he's already more popular than I am. So he's doing a tremendous job in the 3 weeks or so that he's been on the job. I saw him yesterday. He was in a sweatshirt and jeans because he was riding with an undercover narcotics unit yesterday. I mean, the guy is just amazing. And
quick anecdote. When I flippantly said on the show after he uttered what I thought was just the coolest quote ever of "I respect cancer, but I don't fear it," I said that would make a great T-shirt, and he said, "Let's do it." Later that day, both Mike Paiva and myself were asked by several people when the T-shirts are coming, so that might actually
we need to
be
get
done.
those. Yeah, we should get those T-shirts in production and donate the proceeds to the Jimmy Fund or some cancer-related charity. I think we absolutely ought to do that. The thing is, Bob Hayden doesn't fear cancer, and he doesn't fear anything else either. That's part of what makes him a great leader. And I continue to get nothing but hugely positive feedback, both from within the police department and in the community, as more and more people have a chance to meet the chief and speak with them. He got great press in the Globe yesterday when they interviewed him about some of his ideas and plans. I know the day before, just a few things quickly. I mean, huge uptick in morale with the police department. Patrol officers that I don't even know who their names are stop me on the street constantly and voice their support for the new chief, and I need to fight to do whatever I have to do to keep him in there. Just some of the things he's done. Last week we had a meeting. He held a meeting at the police station. He had over a dozen state, county, and federal law enforcement agencies represented to meet together, not individually, but together. And so some will say, well, you know, a lot of those agencies have already done things in Brockton. The state police have a pretty regular presence here. And that's true. But what's been done, and particularly with the federal agencies, they've come in individually for specific reasons, and they come in and they're gone. What Chief Hayden is coordinating is having all of these various agencies actually coordinate their resources and coordinate their intelligence. And he's got some that really haven't been involved here much in the past, like the Plymouth County Sheriff, like Homeland Security investigations. And they're going to bring tremendous additional assets and resources to the fight against crime in Brockton. And it's Chief Hayden's leadership to be able to bring them all together. Now, I did not participate in the meeting, but after their meeting, they went out to lunch together and invited me to lunch. So I had a chance to spend a little time with them at lunch. You get a picture of about 20 high-ranking law enforcement officials from all these various county, state, and federal agencies all sitting at the same table together, having lunch after having had a meeting together, all talking about ways in which they're going to share intelligence, coordinate resources, bring more resources to the city. So if we just give Chief Hayden a chance under his leadership, and all of this will be done under the direction of the Brockton Police Department. So no one should get the impression at all that we are in any way lessening the role of the Brockton Police. All of these agencies will come in coordination with and under the guidance of the Brockton Police Department. And as recently as, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was speaking to Chief Hayden, called me, and he was with the Plymouth County Sheriff when he called me, talking about a whole new method that they're going to introduce to handle prisoners, handle people after they've been arrested, and get them transferred down to the Plymouth County House of Correction rather than housing them in the Brockton Police Station, which will free up police manpower to be out on the streets of Brockton rather than guarding prisoners, and will also reduce the city's liability, because when we have someone in lockup, we're liable, and sometimes bad stuff happens around people that have been locked up. And so by getting them processed and immediately off to the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, we'll let the professionals whose job it is to guard prisoners, and we'll have our police officers out on the street protecting the citizens the way it's supposed to be.
A few subjects I'd like you to address that are somewhat connected. Last we heard from you, and I'm trying to recall all the details, you went before the City Council with this ordinance for there to be an interim police chief or commissioner, rather.
Right.
He is interim police chief right now. You're looking for him to be a commissioner up to 1 year.
Right.
That, as well as what is going on with the former chief, Emmanuel Gomes' pay, which came up, I believe, Wednesday night during the FinCom meeting.
Let me handle those in reverse order.
Sure.
The ordinance, and I should say the ordinance, the item that was on the agenda, FinCom, the other night, reviewing the money that was appropriated to settle Chief Gomes' contract, was some councilors had questions. They put it on the agenda. I came in and answered the questions. There's really no discussion there. I think people have tried to make it something that it isn't. All we did, Chief Gomes had 1 year remaining on his contract, and when he agreed to step aside so that I could bring my own person in, he certainly had a concern to make sure that he was paid off the balance of what he was due on his contract, and it was done fairly. And I never intended to do anything different. From my very first conversation with Chief Gomes, he had a contract. He had a year remaining on his contract. The city had certain legal, financial obligations to Chief Gomes that we honored and never intended not to honor. So basically, what those amount to is for this what would have been his third year as chief, but now he's returned to the ranks as captain. We're obligated to pay him at the chief's rate rather than the captain's rate for his final year, because he had a contract that guaranteed him a chief's salary through March of 2015. So we simply had to find a way to pay that and still comply with the union contract that covers supervising officers like captains. It wasn't just as easy to say, oh, we'll just cut your check for the chief's salary even though you're a captain. Well, the union has a problem with that because they have a collective bargaining agreement that specifies exactly how much captains get paid and all the factors that go into it, like education and longevity and things like that. It's actually a little complex. So what we had to do is identify the difference between the two and pay it to him in a separate side agreement, in which he returned to, and he didn't have to, but he agreed that for the difference between the captain's pay and the chief's pay, that he would provide consulting and advice to the new chief. I mean, he is a guy who's been here for a long time, who was the chief for the past 2 years, and so it was basically built in that way as a stipend in addition to his captain's pay, which brings him up to the chief's level for the one remaining year. And the other item on there was that his contract guaranteed him that he could sell back unused sick days when he completed his term as chief. And so we had to pay him for his sick days. Now, had he completed his service as chief this month or next March, we had to buy those sick days back from him regardless. It was guaranteed to him in his contract. So really, I think it was a lot ado about nothing. It was exactly the way I portrayed it to the councilors and to the public from the very beginning, that we would settle up with Chief Gomes on the remainder of his remaining year in his contract. And I got to tell you, I'm very happy that Chief Gomes now Captain Gomes agreed to resume his former position of captain in the Brockton Police Department. I think he's a very valuable and professional member of the department, and I know for a fact that he has offered some advice and guidance to the new chief. So, I think it's worked out exactly the way we hoped it would.
AM 1460, the new WXBR Brockton, despite them having what seems to be a good working relationship, as you mentioned, they're working in different physical locations at the moment, correct?
Right. For right now, because Captain Gomes was filling a vacant captain's position because of the fact that he had taken a leave of absence to become chief. We have, 6 captains by statute in the Brockton Police Department. One of those positions was open, so when he resumed that position, he needed to be assigned somewhere, and they agreed on the assignment that he would go over to the school police for the time being. I think that Chief Hayden's only been in for about 3 weeks or so. So I think that, some of the moves he may be making right now are not necessarily long-term permanent moves, but the department needs to operate every day. And I think Captain Gomes, to his credit, as chief, did a lot of positive things with the school police department in terms of improving their training and their professionalism and increasing the amount of supervision from the Brockton Police Department. But at the end of the day, that was not a decision that I made. That was a decision that the two chiefs agreed upon amongst themselves, and that was part of my understanding with former Chief Gomes, was that he would have some input in terms of what his future assignment would be. And a guy in his position is, naturally concerned that you're going to ship him off to be dog catcher or something, and that was never our intent. But I left it with the two chiefs to decide what they thought the best role for Captain Gomes was going forward, and the school department, or the school police role was what they agreed upon.
I think people are getting used to you making appearances here on PM and the AM. We are getting a significant amount of Twitter feedback this morning, more so than ever before, actually, during an interview with you. So
good. Well, listen, I'm glad to come in. I mean, I think city government does have to be transparent. Sometimes, for legal reasons, you can't always talk about things that are going on right that moment. But I think as best we can, we are operating an open and transparent city government, and willing to talk about the issues.
Well, we would love to have you on the program again at some point, as is the case every time we have you in studio, that we haven't even scratched the surface on many subjects in which we can cover, and that's just the nature of timing.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of stuff happening in the city on a daily basis, and we're also working on a lot of proactive things going forward, Peter. So, there's probably 50 things we're working on, and over the course of the next year or two, they'll come to fruition on various different timelines, and as those things happen, I'm more than happy to come in and talk about it with your listeners.
And you'll be on the station next week on another program, correct?
Am I on with Ron next week?
Next Tuesday, I
think I am. I know it's on the calendar. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. Ron and I have had many interesting conversations over the years, and we've been friends for a long time. I'm looking forward to it.
You guys share the 9 to 11 time slot at one point.
We did for years.
WBET.
For years. Ron did Monday through Thursday, and I did Fridays. But we go all the way back to the pre-WBET days at WMSX.
You were the sports guy at MSX,
I did some sports stuff over there and filled in on talk show once in a while when Ron had a regular everyday talk show there. So, that's... Do
you remember Mark Schneider?
Of course I do.
Mark Schneider joins Ron every Thursday.
Yeah, Mark is on my Facebook. I swap a message with him every now and then.
Well,
although lately I don't. To my Facebook friends, I apologize. It has just been so darn busy. I haven't had a lot of time to get on there for personal comments over the last few weeks, but I do have some help running the Facebook page. And we actually, on the, if I can plug, Mayor Bill Carpenter Facebook page.
Sure.
We've got over 2,000 followers now, and we try to post new content every day so that people can see some of the things that I'm doing on a daily basis as mayor. And they've even got me started tweeting now, so I'm on Twitter at Mayor Bill Carp. At Mayor Bill Carp on Twitter.
Well, that's Mayor Bill Carpenter joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. We're going to step aside for a quick news update. Mike Paiva is going to fill us in with what's happening in the area. Bill, we thank you for coming in. When we return, do you remember Balloon Boy? The kid they thought was flying in a flying saucer across Colorado?
Oh, yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
That kid's on the phone. We're going to chat with him after the news update.
That should be good. I'll listen in the car.
Stick with us here on the Metro South Morning Show.
Have a great day, everyone.